Hi everyone in Facebook land. This is Deborah Rose with Realty One Group in Payson, Arizona. Welcome to the talk show. Please join us, share us, like us. We are going to allow this camera to roll for just a few seconds to build an audience, and I want to thank Razor Thin Media and Cameron Davis for producing this program, and we are welcoming our Chief Deputy Gila County Assessor, Joe Williams, to the show today. So, Joe, welcome.
Thank you.
It's very nice to have you.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk about some exciting things. Now, I know most of you would disagree that taxes is kind of a boring thing, but there are going to be some fascinating tidbits of information here. Just so you know, we are going to archive this show to our YouTube channel, to my website, which is www.paysonazproperties.com. And then, of course, it'll be on my Facebook business page for hopefully all of eternity. Just kidding, I won't live that long. But anyway, welcome to the show, Joe. It's so nice to have you. So tell me, how long have you been in the position of the Chief Deputy Assessor?
Mm-hmm. 4 years, I believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you like your job?
I love it. You know, you were saying that it's not an exciting topic, but to me it is.
Good. I'm glad, because there is so much valuable information that I think is really difficult to get out into the general public. And so, you know, our biggest concerns here are, you know, our senior citizens. Mm-hmm. We have veterans, and you have some really exciting news about how to freeze the value of a property so people can still afford to live here, pay their taxes, and be part of this marvelous community. So why don't you just dive right in and tell us a little bit about what you want to convey?
Okay. The Senior Freeze program, it is actually meant for people who, you know, you bought your house and the value keeps going up and up and up and over time, and the taxes just become a burden. This is a statewide program. It's the same rules statewide, and it's so after you live in your house as your primary residence for 2 years, at least one of the owners must be 65 years or older.
Okay.
You can freeze the value, and that's the limited property value. That's the value on which your taxes are based.
That's really interesting, because I've never heard of this. So what steps do they need to take in order to freeze the value? And then I have a secondary question, because I know a lot of people are going to go, well, wait a minute, we've lived in our house for 20 years and didn't know this. You can't back it up that far, but you could back it up to today's date, this time period, correct? Okay.
That's right.
Okay, so what steps do they need to take?
Okay, so beginning in February of every year and lasting until September 1st, you need to bring in 3 years worth of income to the assessor's office. We have an office in Payson and also in Globe.
Where is the office in Payson, the address, so people have it?
Okay. It's 201 West Frontier Street, and it's right behind the sheriff's office. It's kind of like diagonal from the post office.
Perfect. Okay, great.
And so you bring in 3 years worth of your income. Like if you file tax returns, federal tax return works, and that's how you apply, really.
Well, most people who are retired or 65 or older, a lot of them don't work, so they don't file any longer. So what did they do?
Okay, proof of all your income. So if you don't file income tax returns and you get Social Security, then that, or if you get you know, a pension, anything, all of your income, we need the proof of it.
Okay, and if they have like a rental property, that would, because you're going to be able to see in their tax records if you pull up their name if they own multiple properties, correct? So we're talking just about them bringing in all their income, Social Security, and rental, if they have a rental, and they can only do it, though, on their primary residence.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And the freeze, as I said, it freezes your limited property value. It's good for 3 years. and every 3 years, you can renew it. So you can really keep the same value for, forever.
Oh, wow. That leads, what about veterans that aren't 65 years old yet? Do they get any kind of help from our county?
Yes, no. Actually, it was written into our state's constitution that veterans can get a discount, but that was challenged, I think, in the 90s and overturned as unconstitutional. Since then, we, and by that I mean the assessors group, all 15 counties, assessors and chief deputies, we have a group. And we've been trying to get that passed, new legislation introduced, that would give, like, a veteran who is determined to be 50% disabled would get 50% of the exemption. We've been unsuccessful, but
Okay, so is this due to our legislation at the Capitol not passing it through? Is this something that Congressman Gosar is fighting for? He's usually very good about helping the veterans. So,
that's a good question. We haven't taken it to Congressman Gosar, but we have, the legislature. They prioritize the bills that they want to run, and this just hasn't been a priority, unfortunately.
Well, someone's going to have to focus on this because that's completely unacceptable.
Agreed.
Okay, well, we're going to have Congressman Gosar on the show next year, and then guess what we're going to be talking about? Okay,
so,
all right.
But let's talk about exemptions that are in place.
Okay.
Widows, widowers, and a 100% disabled person. Either one of those, has an exemption.
What kind of exemption?
Okay, so the exemption, it's an amount that is deducted from your limited property value before the taxes are applied to it. So really, what it means is a savings of several $100s up to, I think, $600 is about what the exemption means to people. The time to apply for that is, again, I said widowers or 100% disabled people, January and February.
So if they want to apply for the exemption, they have to go either into your office at 201 West Frontier Street or in Globe?
At 1400 East Ash Street at the courthouse.
Okay, and what do they have to bring?
So if it's a disability exemption, there's a doctor's certificate that basically they take this to their primary care physician, and the doctor checks the box that they're 100% and permanently disabled, and they bring that. That's all they have to bring.
And in the widow or widower's case, it would be a death certificate.
Correct.
Certified?
It has to be recorded.
Okay.
In Gila County.
Well, and don't they have to record that anyway, or they're not obligated?
No.
Okay.
They're not obligated to. It's always good practice too. Some people have like a beneficiary deed, and their real estate will go into one or the other's name. That's going to require that too.
Yeah, if they do sell the home, we require that in real estate, the death certificate, certified death certificate, to be recorded with the county. So
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
To apply, they have to apply in person the first time, and they should bring in, again, their income. State tax return is good, or proof of all other income. There's an income limitation for that too. And but once they apply and are approved, it automatically renews every year.
Wow, that's really good. So unlike the freezing the value, which you have to renew every 3 years, these two, the 100% disabled population and the widow or widowers population, never has to do anything again.
Correct.
That's incredible.
That's correct. So, they just have to bring in their state income tax return, and also, and this, doesn't apply to everybody, because, especially up here in, the Payson area, the exemption amount is applied, towards your real estate value first. But there are some people, like if you just have like a single wide manufactured home and the value is not great, if there's any leftover amount, you can actually use that to apply it towards your vehicle registration.
Oh, wow, that's really helpful too.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. How long does this process take from the time they file to until it gets reviewed, accepted, and then applied to their taxes?
That same year. I mean, we will review and approve or deny within 2 months. We'll work through them all. But say they apply in January of 2020, that takes effect on their tax bill that comes out in the fall.
Okay, wonderful. Any other exemptions or programs that you think benefit the general public? Or are those the main ones? Freezing valuations and the 2 exemption categories. Okay, there's nothing else from those, but let's dive into a little bit disputes.
Okay.
Don't you, there's a lot of people, when we sell real estate, that feel like their taxes have gone either so exorbitantly high or maybe they've built a home and added all this square footage and never reported it, and then here comes a sale and the new buyer gets hit with this enormous new bill because the square footage has never been recorded. And that is becoming a problem. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So anybody that builds a house or takes out a permit to make improvements, build an addition, a garage, whatever, we have our office has relationships with all the permitting authorities in the county. So we'll get that permit, and so right now, say you were to take a permit out and build an addition, we would get that permit right now and send an appraiser out and record the changes, but that will go on your tax year 2021 assessment. And the reason why that is because we're required to give you notice, plenty of notice of what value changes are happening, and that gives you enough time to appeal, to fully exhaust your appeal rights. So I mean, that it's a good thing, but it does result in some sticker shock for some people.
Yeah, well, we're kind of used to that here now, right, with the rising prices. I mean, that's good for the county in terms of taxation, but what about the disputes? What happens when someone's really unhappy? What steps can they take to try to reason with the county about the valuation and try to figure out also how you get those valuations? So first, let's focus on the disputes, and then we'll digress to your chief appraiser, I think Steve Jensen, and his role in all of this, if you don't mind.
Sure. So we're required by the last day in February to send everybody a notice of value out. And from that date that we mailed that, you have 60 days to dispute that value. In Arizona, we have a full cash value and a limited property value.
Yeah.
Full cash value is synonymous with market value.
Okay.
Supposed to be. Limited property value is statutorily calculated. There's specific ways we have to arrive at that value, and anyone can appeal their full cash value. Nobody can appeal their limited property value.
Isn't the limited property value usually much lower than the full cash value?
It cannot be higher.
Right, I've noticed it's always lower. Okay.
Right.
So who determines the full cash value, and when they do come in to dispute it, then you're taking this appeal to whom? Or is it just you? Does the buck stop with you, or do
Yes.
you go? Okay, oh, it does.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a big guy in town, guys. Better be friends with Joe Williams.
No. Yeah, our office's responsibility is to determine full cash value, and to handle any and all appeals that come about from the full cash value.
Okay. Now, Gila County is ginormous. What? It's about 200 miles, right, in radius, square miles?
I don't know that.
He doesn't know something. Oh, that's okay. It's big. It's really big because we have Globe, we have
All the way down to Winkleman, Hayden Winkleman, all the way up to the Mogollon Rim.
Yeah,
basically.
It's a gigantic area. So something I want to talk about just very briefly is, and I have to tell a lot of people that come to me for real estate advice, that the reason our taxes do have to remain a little bit higher is because we have a vast area with very limited population. That's the beautiful thing about Arizona, is we have all these wide open spaces, and yet certain towns bear the burden of most of the infrastructure. Where the population is where most of the taxes are, correct?
That's right.
So we have this vast area and infrastructure and these little tiny pockets of people that have to pay for the whole kit and caboodle, right?
Right. Yeah.
So sticker shock is going to be part of the process, and people have to wrap their brain around it in advance, because there's nothing we can really do about that, because we won't be able to sustain roads and county services and things like that without having, a fairly healthy tax base.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. Of our area in this county, only 3.5% of it is private property. So we only have 3.5% to draw our taxes on. Yes, yet we have to provide services across the whole thing. That's why, I'll use Maricopa County as an example. They've got, well, I don't know what the population is, millions of people, but the vast majority of their land is privately owned.
Yes.
So you might pay, let's say you pay $300,000 for a house down there. Your tax bill is going to be a lot less than if you pay $300,000 for a house here.
That's correct. Yeah, the Phoenix area has most of the public lands available in the entire state, and this is one state where approximately 88% is off limits, and 12% is available for public consumption. And so these more rural areas are stuck with a heftier price tag because we lack the population to distribute the money, right?
Right.
So you can't dispute people. I want to make sure in people's minds they're staying realistic with the realities of living here in this gorgeous country, where the air quality is supreme. It's just, let's just face it. I mean, we're kind of living the dream here, right? And there is a price to be paid. So within reason, disputes are important. However, in your mind, what determines the value of the property if someone were to come in and dispute it?
That's a good question. That's a deep question. Residential mostly is sales, comparable sales. You know, for like a commercial piece of property, we'll probably look at sales too, unless someone, we had an appeal just this last year where someone used the income approach, and it was a commercial piece of property. I won't give away too much about what it was, but they were able to illustrate that the primary function of the property is to make money, and they were not making as much money as they could have or should have. So they were able to illustrate that the value wasn't there just based on receipts.
Yeah,
gross receipts.
That's really interesting, and I think the more you can illustrate, that, I think the more successful they would become in their dispute. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. And this is another thing I want people to know. We're a public office. Everything that we do almost is open for public inspection. We are not we're not married to the values that we put out. We think it's the best job that we can do, and we're confident in them. But if somebody exposes an overvaluation, that's okay. We welcome that.
Okay.
That's a healthy process to us, is to show our work to the public and it to undergo scrutiny, and if we're mistaken, that's fine.
That's wonderful.
We're okay with that.
So you're actually a government entity that actually invites accountability. Wow. Oh, I like you guys more and more as we're talking. That's awesome. Okay, I know we're running out of time. I just want to keep going with this. How often are you looking at the valuation of properties, and who is looking at that?
It's an office-wide procedure. We invite the younger, least experienced or less experienced appraisers to kind of teach. But to answer your question, every year we're looking at sales countywide. We're looking at neighborhood by neighborhood by neighborhood analysis. It usually we'll start doing land in July, and the process isn't complete until mid-November, sometimes December is when we get the okay from the Arizona Department of Revenue. They're involved in the process, and that's usually when they give us we call it the good to go letter.
Okay.
So every single year we're looking at them, in the office.
That's wonderful. Gosh, a lot of good information here. So people after the show can always come into your office if they have any questions or concerns, and you will be happy to help them or one of your staff. Let's talk about the big picture just for a moment as we kind of wrap things up. Deborah Hughes, fellow realtor, has issued notice of her retirement at the end of this year, and that is 1 year shy of her term. So what's going to happen January 1st with you and your job?
That I don't know. Hopefully the Board of Supervisors, the Gila County Board of Supervisors are going to appoint somebody that they feel is most capable to fulfill her term.
Okay.
The end of her term.
Okay.
I hope that's me.
You'd like to apply for the job?
Yes.
Did you hear that, Board of Supervisors? Joe Williams wants to apply for the job, making it official. And then what happens is you fulfill that term, and then the Gila County Assessor position is an elected position, correct?
That's right.
And then it will go to vote to the public in November of 2020? Okay. And anyways, we'll see what happens down the road. That's a great job. Do you have any closing thoughts or statements? And do we have any questions, Cameron? I mean, we have 5 minutes.
Melissa commented that the county is actually 4,795 square miles.
What?
Wow.
Did you hear that?
Wow.
Okay, if you didn't hear Cameron, Gila County is 4,795 square miles. Holy cow.
38 square miles of water.
And 38 square miles of water.
And I drive that. I drive that. By the way, also I live in Globe. I have an apartment down in actually Miami, and I also have a place to stay up here. I try to split my time between the two offices.
Okay. So if you work for the county at your level, then do you have to own a home in Globe? That's the county seat is Globe, Arizona. For those of you that don't know, do you have to have a place there?
No.
You don't. Okay, good. You just have to live within Gila County, right? You're serving a county position?
I don't know the answer to that. I choose to because it's just I think it. I can serve people better.
Okay. Okay, that's good. And then just in closing, the vision that you have, if you were to be elected to serve the remaining term for Deborah Hughes, what would that vision look like for you?
Well, I believe in efficiency and accountability at the government level. So, and another thing is, it's tough to live in this county and to pay the taxes that we all pay, and I think that responsibility to that is very important to me. That's what I would want in a public servant.
Efficiency and accountability. Wow, those are refreshing words. Who handles the budget for the county? I mean, do you have a budget that you have to work with?
Yes.
As the assessor? Okay.
Yes. Well, yeah, our office does. We do have a budget, and we proudly come in under budget every year. And I think that's important, providing the highest degree of accountability and serving the people, our neighbors.
So your leadership, let's just speak to Deborah Hughes for just a moment. We have 2 more minutes, but how has she been to work with? It sounds like she's been a great leader based on some of the words that you're mentioning right now. Do you attribute some of that to her?
Definitely. It all starts with her. And she came into the role of the assessor from the private industry, and I think that's very important. She was not a government plant, and it was frankly it was refreshing. I was hired on at the assessor's office under the prior assessor, and it was refreshing when she came in, and painful to some people, but it's refreshing, and I just want to keep that. I want to keep that going.
Keep that same kind of enterprising, independent spirit, and bringing change to a government that is, can be bogged down. I think the last assessor had been in his role for 20 some years?
Some odd years,
24 years. So thank you, Deborah Hughes, for your service to our Gila County Assessor Department. You've done a fabulous job, and thank you, sir, for rising to the occasion, and hopefully, we don't know what's going to happen yet, but maybe you'll be moving into that position, and I want to thank you for sharing the plethora of knowledge that you have done, and it sounds like you're doing a really good job. And remember, general public, if you have any questions, go to 201 Frontier Street. It's where the Gila County Assessor Office is within the town of Payson, and it's also in Globe. And we just want to invite you to share this video with your friends. It had a lot of great information, and if you want more, you can visit Joe Williams at his office. And I want to thank you for joining us today. Have an awesome week, and we'll see you next month.